Back to the ETF Inspector. It's Tuesday, September 2nd, just about 4:30 in the afternoon. Markets are closed, and this is our daily recap video for our weekly paying dividend funds from Roundhill. The first three are 0 DTEs off the indexes, QDTE for the NASDAQ 100, XDTE for the S&P 500, and RDTE for the Russell 2000. And then we also fill in YBTC into this video series, which is a Bitcoin covered call strategy, which they are currently trading off of IBIT with synthetics. All right, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1. Specific to these videos, I post things like distribution announcements, which we'll talk about today related to YBTC, as well as their daily trades if you cover these or if you keep track of these 0 DTE trades, whether you trade along or whether you just like to see how your investment is doing throughout the day. But now that the day's over, I'm going to let you know how they made out and how much money was made or lost. So we take a look at how the markets did. We know we started pretty rough in the red for the most part and then tried to recover throughout the day. For the most part, didn't make it. YBTC being the exception to that rule. So the NASDAQ 100 was down about 0.79%, obviously nowhere near as bad as the lows on the day. QDTE down 0.72, so down obviously similar but not quite as bad. SPX down 0.69%, again XDTE down 0.66%, so outperforming but just barely. The Russell 2000 was down 0.6%, while RDTE was down only about 0.25%. So that is a little bit more significant of a beat. And then finally, YBTC is trades based off of IBIT. They were up almost 2.5%. YBTC up more than 2.5%. So they realized, or I don't want to say realized because that sounds like something was sold and finished, but they appreciated along with them and then additional as well. All right, so let's take a look at how our trades went. Starting out with QDTE, they sold 379 calls at 23,220 on the NDX, collecting $36.31 per share or $1.3 million. Like it when they swing for the fence. It closed at $23,231.11 though. So that is $11.11 too far. So it was looking all day like they were going to beat it, and then it came back and crossed it at the end. So $11.11 had to be paid, which comes out to about $421,000. Fortunately, they brought in a lot more than that, so it resulted in a full day's profit of $955,000. Not a bad day. When we take a look at QDTE, so we don't worry too much on these closing prices up here because sometimes they take a little bit longer to settle. That's why we use that stock app. But as far as our holdings from last week, there was no changes. All right, we've got our deep in the money calls dated out anywhere from September 19th of this year to September 18th of next year, and they are deep in the money to the tune of $20,000 in the money. We had, if you missed Friday's video, we've got our payment guesstimates over here where I came up with a guess of 21 cents based on all the information we have available to us. Tomorrow is Declaration Day, so they officially announced tomorrow, but keep an eye out. A lot of times we get that information after 8 o'clock at night on Tuesday night, so if I get it, I'll post it on X. There's $887 million in assets under management within QDTE and 25.5 million outstanding shares. As you see, the value of the fund was $34.77. That's when the day started, so that's before dropping 0.73%. Next, we're going to go to XDTE. They sold 659 calls expiring today. That's what the 0 DTE trade is. It expires the same day as you're selling it. with a strike price of 6,415 on the SPX, collecting $4.78 per share, or $315,000. SPX closed at $6,415.54, so just about nailed that perfect. Gonna have to pay 54 cents per share premium to close that out. That's $35,000, resulting in an overall profit of $279,000 on the day. When I talk about these, different from if you or I are trading options, a lot of times these are they're cash settled. I believe they call them European style. Now SPX is that way anyway. I'm not familiar enough to know if all of these are NDX and RUT, but in any case, they've got it to where they don't have to worry about assignment. They're going to cash settle everything. Okay, XDTE, again, declaration day's tomorrow. My estimate from Friday, if you want to see how I got there, go back and watch Friday's video, but I'm saying 22 cents. There's $420 million in assets under management. Again, no changes in the holdings. Color them in purple. These are synthetic positions. So they buy these deep in the money calls, and then that's what they're using to sell calls off of on the daily basis. Obviously able to back up those other calls using these. These are obviously much more valuable. Let's see, the previous distribution was 21 cents, so I am guessing that they go slightly higher than that, but again, we'll find out tomorrow, maybe tonight. Last of the 0 DTEs is RDTE, selling on the Russell. They sold 657 calls with a strike price of $2,350, collecting $3.66 per share premium, or $240,000. Russell 2000 ended at $2,352.34. So that's $2.34 too far. We'll enter that. That costs $153,000 out of the $240,000, resulting in a net profit of $86,000 on the day. So all three, is that right? All three had to pay some sort of money to close out, but they had all collected more than that on the front end. So no losses, just some of the original money taken in had to be used. We've got a 22.5-cent guesstimate for today, or for tomorrow, listed for RDTE. Last one was very close to that, 22.3 cents. There's $152 million in assets under management. Again, no changes from Friday as far as our holdings are concerned. 4.5 million outstanding shares, and a slight drop today from where the NAV started. All right, and then last but not least, probably should have done this one first since it was announcement day for YBTC. They don't show us their daily trades. They don't make daily trades. They trade weekly. So they have a synthetic position on IBIT where they purchased calls at $66.70, sold puts at $66.70 with a 10/17 expiration date. They've got 47,756 of those contracts. They are currently deep in debt on those, or underwater, however you want to say it. They would cost $23 million to close this synthetic position out. That is before today's 2.5% increase. So once all the downloads become available late tonight, these will obviously swing a little better in our favor, but still not positive. This IBIT would need to go beyond 66.70 for this to go positive. For this week, they have sold IBIT calls at $63.09. Again, if you're kind of new here, that probably sounds like a really odd option, not one you have access to. Me neither, don't worry. They're considered flex options. But so they sold it expiring Friday, $63.09. They are currently 0.19% out of the money after today's nice increase of 2.5%. There's $291 million of assets under management within this fund after Friday's increase of 300,000 shares. bringing it up to 6.6 million outstanding shares. The NAV this morning before that nice increase was 44.05, so obviously it's going to jump 2.5%. And then they did announce, right, we showed it at the beginning, Roundhill updates YBTC 46.1683 cents per share. We've got that right there. My guesstimate from last week was 45.7698 cents. So this was probably one of my closer ones, maybe the closest one yet. Less than 1% off. I got that under the surprise column. So 0.86% was how far off my estimate was. Good bit lower than last week's. Last week's was 49, almost 50 cents a share. So it did come down some, but we were anticipating that. All right, that's all I have for you. Thank you for watching. Check back tomorrow. Keep an eye out for those distribution announcements and tomorrow's trades. I will post them on X. Thank you. Have a good day.